I've got a few hot takes, but one of them is that an interim champ should fight the champion next. Maybe. There shouldn't be this Tom Aspinall's won the interim belt.
Yep.
He defended it. And listen, if Aspinall was sitting on the Pavlovich win, I would say, who's this guy sitting on the Pavlovich win? Take the belt off him. You know what I mean? He stepped up on short notice. He's sat out for a year now, year and a half, whatever it would have been. And he's acting like he deserves all this. But then he defended it against Blades. And that's where I think it legitimized the interim championship. You know what I mean? In a weird world, he stamped his mark like, oh no, this is the guy at heavyweight. He's now beaten Volkov, Blades, and Pavlovich in, I think, combined just over a round, which is kind of insane to put those three names together like that. But yeah, I just feel like it's weird that there's Joe Rogan even being like, what about Pereira? You know what I mean? On the microphone in front of millions. And I'm like, dude, Tom's in the crowd, interim champ with a defense. Get him in the cage. Yeah. Jones just said he's not going to retire. Let's get him in the cage. Even for the UFC. I know they like Jones and they kind of want the Michael Jordan of the sport and they want to have that, especially with PFL coming along with Ngannou. Mm-hmm. I think this whole Jones Dana saga, let's get into this as well. I think it's a Dana vendetta mission against Ngannou, in all honesty. He loves that Jones beat Gane a lot easier than Ngannou did. You know he loves that. Yeah. If Jones would have lost to Cyril Gane, there would have been this, the UFC doesn't have the baddest man on the planet. Yeah. And Ngannou is. Look what he did against Tyson Fury, especially after the Tyson Fury fight. It was like, this guy's crazy. This one of the best combat sport athletes of all time, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, right? No one's really made that high level of crossover as effectively as Ngannou did. A different night, the judges give him that win against Tyson Fury. Yep. If they're not boxing judges, let's just say. But yeah, I think this whole thing has sort of been Dana. He wants John to be no other promotion can have him. We had the go. We had the best. The UFC did it before anyone sort of picks up any kind of steam of legacy outside the UFC. But I can't even remember what we were talking about, but yeah, Tom Aspinall.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, Tom Aspinall's great. But here's another thing, a hot take too, is that, DC said it best. At one point in time, Mauricio Shogun Hua was the man. Like his name was way bigger than John Jones, right? He beat Rampage Jackson twice. He's beat, Ricardo Arona. He's beat Alistair Overeem. He's done an amazing thing. He's beat, I believe he beat Forrest Griffin. I'm not sure if he did or not, but he became.
Who we naming? Anderson Silva?
No. Mauricio Shogun Hua.
I didn't hear the name. You cut out a bit. Shogun Hua. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So he's
all these names.
He was a big name at the time, and he didn't have to risk it against John Jones. When John Jones stepped on short notice, he didn't have to risk it. He didn't need John Jones in his legacy, right? But exactly. Mauricio Shogun Hua gave John Jones that opportunity to be able to make a name of himself, and John Jones capitalized on it. Now, I feel like it's the vicious cycle of mixed martial arts or any sport. And if you look at Russell Wilson, when he was hot, I don't know if you watch American football, but at one point in time, he was probably considered one of the best quarterbacks because he ushered in a new era of quarterbacks. A quarterback who can sit in the pocket, who can run, and a quarterback who can also throw the ball. Same thing with Cam Newton. But these guys, they stuck around for way too long, and then you had newer generation football players coming in, right? So I feel like it's the same thing with mixed martial arts. If Habib would have stayed around long enough, somebody would have came in and beat Habib and made a name off of beating Habib. Same thing with John Jones. It's almost that time. If John Jones is going to stick around even longer, you got to give the guy the next shot, the opportunity to be able to make a name. It's the same thing with me. It's like, okay, I beat Adriano twice. He beat me once. I already beat Danny King Dad. I already beat Yuya Wakamatsu. I already beat Tatsumaki Wada. The only other person I haven't beat in the division was Kairat Akhmatov. He popped for steroids or whatever the hell his drug test came back. Okay, I'm kind of bored of fighting. Am I going to come over to the UFC, fight Alex Pantoja? Am I going to fight Steve Erceg? Am I going to fight Kai France? Am I going to fight Brennan Moreno? No, I'm bored. I don't enjoy training anymore. So I retired. But if I was still in the UFC and I was still the champion, I was on, a 15 consecutive title streak, then, and it's a next number one contender, I would assume that I would fight because I did it 11 times in a row. Yes, they try to make that TJ Dillashaw fight, right? We had a little stipulations in there. All I asked for was $1 million. They act like it was a lot of money. And I also went in their contract and said, if TJ Dillashaw does not make weight at 125, we fight for his belt at 135. They said no. So the fight never happened, and I was too scared to fight TJ Dillashaw. So I think terrified, right? But I think what John Jones could be doing is maybe setting something up. He said he would consider fighting Tom Aspinall if the number and a check is good. That way, if he did lose to Tom Aspinall, it doesn't really matter, right? So it's a very hard thing when you peel back the onion. And Dana White said it. He goes, John Jones needs to fight Tom Aspinall if he wants to fight again, right? You look at John Jones. John Jones, you want to fight Tom Aspinall? I want $40 million. I can't give that to you, John Jones. You're not getting Alex Picheda. Done. John Jones retires. Or does Dana White go back on his word and say, you know what, Alex Jones, you guys to fight? Because John Jones already said he would relinquish the world title, right? And he says he doesn't care about it. If he doesn't care about it, then why should I care about it? Like if a champion doesn't really care about his belt, then it doesn't give me significance that I should care about his belt. You catch my drift, right? It's like, I'm gonna divorce my wife. I don't really care. That's like, really? I mean, granted, it's two different things, but it's just such an interesting, convoluted problem where it's like, it doesn't have to be a problem if we do what you said. It's like, the heavyweight's fighting the interim champion. Done. If you don't want to fight anymore, Jones, you can just ride up in the sunset because Alex Picheda has a number one contender that he can fight. It's not like these guys don't have people to fucking fight.
Aspinall doesn't. This is the reason why I would say UFC, even if it is 40, 50 million, I can drop it once on a fighter. Jones is the fighter to drop it on. You know, they've probably dropped a good, I would say they probably dropped a good 20, 30 mil on a McGregor fight. A few times. 100%. 30. I'd say about 30 for the Khabib fight. That would be my guess. But they should drop a 40 mil drop on Jones because it's for the health of the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
You know, they need that because think about the heavyweight division. You said Pereira has Ankalaev. He also has, you know, there's names. Azamat Murzakanov, Nikita Krylov. That's a name fight. They're both really good fighters, both of them. And if they win, there'll be some level of hype. And they've got Carlos Ulberg coming up in the division right now as well. He's putting together some good wins. And, you know, there's even like if Khalil picks it back up, there's that rematch because of how competitive the first fight was. There's options. But at heavyweight,
there's nothing.
There's nothing. There's literally nothing going on at heavyweight. There's Jailton Almeida, which is a matchup, but not a huge matchup that everyone's aware of. And based on his previous performances, people aren't too fond of him because he's not crazy exciting guy. He's not picking up these highlight reels. Heavyweight's known for knockouts. People tune into heavyweight to see a big first round finish and get it over with. But other than that, other than Jailton Almeida, I mean, there's the Cyril Gane rematch, but then the UFC might fall into that trap of if Gane beats Aspinall, now they don't have the best heavyweight in the world again, if the PFL still has Ngannou being active. Now, Gane being the heavyweight champ at the end of all of this would be the UFC's worst nightmare, in my opinion. So I think dropping that check on an Aspinall-Jones fight is probably the best thing they can do because then it would open up the Pereira movement to heavyweight. You know, even after that, even if they don't want to drop as much money on that fight. If Aspinall were to win, then the Pereira fight were to happen, it gives them a year of a future while they figure stuff out. Because right now I think they've got a 4-0 Mick Parkin coming up in the division. And it's like, I was even trying to talk to Aspinall about that. And he was like, oh, Mick Parkin's got no chance against me, mate, and all of this stuff. But they're training partners. So even that's a bit of a weird dynamic for them. And I was thinking, Jonata Deniz. And then he gets blobbed by Tybura. And Tybura just blobs on him and sits there squatting on him in mount. And it's just like, there's not much. They need movement, you know, in the heavyweight division. I had a bitterness going into it of like, ugh, yuck, I hate this. But now it's happened. I kind of appreciate that it did. There is nothing that has been more successful at promoting Aspinall than the fact that he didn't get the shot. Everyone rallied behind him, whereas, listen, Aspinall's a nice guy, but he's not really a Strickland that's going to win you over on the mic or, someone like that or a McGregor coming up in his prime. So Tom Aspinall's a nice guy, but people have rallied behind him out of like, he's been done wrong. Sometimes it's good for a guy to be done wrong, especially when they're looking to be promoted moving forward. So I think that has subconsciously helped Aspinall here. But talking about the performance, I ultimately assumed John Jones was going to beat Stipe Miocic. That was not the shock to me. The question to me was, how good is he going to look? Is he going to blow Stipe out the water? He did, but there were definitely moments where I watched it and thought, oof, if that's a young heavyweight light on his feet with some high level of speed and power that's Tom Aspinall, then this could go a little differently. You know, Stipe Miocic is a legend, but he's also 42, been out for a long time. I don't think he spent 3.5 years in the gym bringing in like a Craig Jones to make sure his grappling's on point and all of this stuff. Like, I feel like he's been putting his career on the back seat, and then he's sort of seen this opportunity to make millions again against Jones and thought, yeah, I'll focus on this. But even in the training camp, he was doing part-time firefighting. But he looked good. Jones looked good. Spinning back kick to the body, really nasty finish. I actually said in my Aspinall interview that was one of the things that Jones had over Stipe. Mm-hmm. I mentioned in my Aspinall interview, I said this word for word. I said, one of the big advantages that Jones has is that he's dynamic and there's more for Stipe to worry about. Yep. Stipe's a lineal boxer. He doesn't kick very much, not above the legs anyway. He's not really an offensive grappler as much these days. He likes to avoid that if he can and keep it on the feet with his boxing. And I said, it's not like John Jones has to worry about Stipe Miocic's amazing spinning back kick to the body or anything. It's not that John, watch out for Stipe's great spinning back kick to the body. You know what I mean? It's not, I don't know. He has more of a chance to shock Stipe's system with an override of different techniques, you know? I literally said that. Yeah. And then boom, Jones catches with him because that's his advantage, the dynamicness that Jones can pull off with his athleticism. But yeah, Jones looked good. He won the fight. But I couldn't help but watch it, seeing him plod around in round 2 and think, are these the best heavyweights in the world, or are Ngannou and Aspinall the best heavyweights in the world right now? And these two are just in this limbo state of isolation fighting the older gen.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the biggest thing going into that was we both agree that Stipe is very lineal how he goes about his fights, right? And in those 3.5 years, you would think like, okay, I'm going to start working on some high kicks. I'm going to start working on body kicks. Okay, I'm going to start working on my wrestling to bring a different thing to the octagon. Because when you watch all his other fights, when he fought Francis, Junior Santos, Alistair Overeem, it's almost like the same fighter. Even DC, it was the same fighter. It's always approaching the fight with boxing, not really wrestling. To where a lot of people, if I was in his shoes of, okay, if I'm going to fight John Jones when he comes back, I need to make sure I be more dynamic in my approach to this fight. And obviously, you know, John Jones, the IQ, the dynamic, the athleticism, is just way above Stipe. But I think the biggest thing, like you said, would help Tom Aspinall is that he is even more of a bigger star and he didn't even have to fight. Right? Like he became way more popular by just like, dude, this is who I want to fight. I want to fight the best in the world. If John Jones, if you claim you're the best in the world, then fight me. Like, I want to fight you. And John Jones has gone on record saying that I don't want to risk my legacy or my career against a young, hungry, dangerous opponent that's here today and gone tomorrow. Those are his words verbatim. And now when I hear that, that tells me that he sees Tom Aspinall as a threat, which I believe he is a threat because he is younger, he is faster, he does have that power. And does Tom Aspinall get hit? Yes, he does. Who doesn't get hit when they fight, right? So that was the biggest thing that I was like, okay, I understand that. But he said he's willing to risk it against Alex Pereira. Now, in a perfect world, if Alex Pereira didn't have, you know, Magomed Ankalaev waiting in the contendership spot, and you didn't have Tom Aspinall, then yes, let's make this matchup. Let's do Alex Pereira versus John Jones. But this is reality. This is where we live. At the end of the day, this is a sport. You have Tom Aspinall, a young, hungry, explosive, very good. You know, John Jones doesn't give him credit, but you got to give the man credit. Or it could be John Jones just cut him at the knees and just, you know, kind of like belittling his career. He's done some amazing things in the heavyweight division. He's put way more work in the heavyweight division in the last 3.5 years than Stipe Miocic has, right? So you got to give credit where credit's due. So Tom Aspinall, he's been doing some good shit in the heavyweight division that obviously warrants Jon Jones to be scared to fight him and risk it. Now, Alex has been killing it. He's been doing his thing, but he's also got Uncle Life, who's right there, that could be a great matchup. If those two can get past the number one contenders in their division, then you make this super fight. But Jon Jones going out there saying, like, I don't want to risk it to the young guy, but I'll risk it for the same guy who's the same age as me, who, is a big name too.
As a striker.
He's a striker. I think Jon Jones, that's an easier fight for Jon Jones against Alex Pereira. But it's just, that's the biggest thing that I felt like it kind of elevated this like cloud over this fight. Because for me, I wasn't excited to see Jon Jones come back. I'm excited to see what the outcome is of what decision he decides to do. Does he fight Tom Aspinall or does he fight Alex Pereira?
And instead, he preached Jesus on the microphone, which is nothing wrong with. I don't want to get all critical of that. But he was asked on the mic, like, would you rather fight? Joe Rogan was very big. I think it's strange that there's even being given an option, to be honest with you. I really do.
Now, if you guys enjoyed that clip and you want to check out the whole video, click right here. And if you guys want to see other clips from this channel, click right here. Enjoy.